The food we eat plays a huge role in our energetic state, and it doesn't just affect our bodies, but it affects our mind, body, and soul. If you are going through a spiritual awakening or a Kundalini awakening, or you just want to be healthier overall, this video will definitely benefit you. Let me just start by saying this goes pretty deep. Like, food is so much more important than I think a lot of people realize when it comes to ascension. Some foods are good for grounding, whereas others are good for connecting to source. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And keep in mind that everybody's needs will be different depending on you, depending on who you are, what you're going through. But it's really a matter of listening to your body. Let's start off with high vibrational foods. High vibrational foods are things like fresh fruits and vegetables, raw or steamed vegetables especially, nuts and seeds, especially when soaked or sprouted, because to me that does make a difference. It does. And herbal teas or just herbs in general. Now, once again, some of these teas can ground you and some of them can connect you to source. It just depends on you. Water. I view water as a high vibrational element. It can be grounding. Water can be grounding, but it can also be high vibrational. And, I can make a whole video on water, okay? And then we have fresh juices, okay? If you're into juicing, to me, that's like the fastest way to take in nutrients as well as connect to source. I know that sounds weird, but juicing, if you even know anything about that, a lot of people talk about it. Not only juicing, okay? With all these high vibrational foods, they will heighten your senses. When you ingest these high vibrational foods, they will heighten your senses so much that it can become overwhelming, and that's when the grounding foods will come in, okay? But it can get overwhelming. So if you get overwhelmed by that, then the grounding foods are going to benefit you. Grounding foods, one of the biggest grounding foods in my opinion is meat, okay? And that includes fish, especially when cooked. Root vegetables like potatoes, carrots, sweet potatoes, whole grains, brown rice, oats, hearty or fatty foods like avocados, dairy, butter, cheese, that goes with dairy, milk, nuts. Sometimes people do think milk is associated with a high vibrational food because it is white, right? Because color makes a difference, and white is associated with the crown chakra. Yes, so is violet, but white is also associated with the crown chakra and the higher frequencies and all that. So once again, that depends on you. Okay, it depends on you. Grounding foods provide almost instant stability. It brings you back down to earth. Okay, so if you are someone who operates from your higher chakras, or you get overwhelmed easily by taking in too much energy, if you're an empath, all that kind of stuff, you're a psychic, you might want to incorporate more grounding foods. For those of you who are almost too grounded in the 3D, it's important to try to incorporate more high vibrational foods. But in my opinion, the thing that is most important is to listen to your body and balance both. So integrate both, eat both, and then you have a good balance. It's kind of the same as like masculine and feminine energy, yin and yang. So learning how to balance that for yourself will be probably the most beneficial thing. Now, this is when things get a little more deep and interesting, in my opinion. And we're going to talk about sacred geometry because, yes, this is a big thing when it comes to food. Food is encoded with sacred geometry. Everything holds frequency. And I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but if you look at the patterns in fruits and vegetables and food and plants and all that comes from the earth, it's sacred geometry. So when you eat foods that have these universal codes and sacred geometry in them, you are literally eating frequency. You are eating universal frequency. It's insane when you actually really register that in your brain. You're like, wait a minute. For example, have you ever looked at a walnut? Okay. When I was going through my Kundalini awakening, I was eating walnuts and I'm like, this shape is so interesting. And I realized it looks like a lung to me. It looks like lungs. So I looked it up and guess what? Walnuts support lung health. What? So a lot of food actually looks like the shape of the body part that it supports, along with sacred geometry. That's how deep this shit goes. Okay. It goes pretty deep. Now, why is sacred geometry important, right? You might be like, why does that matter? Sacred geometry is the fundamental blueprint of creation, God's source, same thing. So yeah, when you're ingesting that, you're automatically raising your vibrational frequency and bringing yourself closer to God, source, the universe, which, depending on people's beliefs, you're just coming closer to your own self, to who you are. We are the universe, obviously, right? So you ever look at stretch marks, how they look the same as like a tree trunk? Have you ever noticed? I have a tree in the front yard that just looks just like my stretch marks. Every time I see it, I see myself. If you look at an eyeball, you look at eyes, they look like nebulas. Our entire bodies are made up of everything that is on Earth, everything that is in the universe. That is what we are made of. We are not disconnected from that. The disconnection is an illusion. But I'm going to get back to food, okay? Because I could go really deep into that topic, and I'm not going to do that in this video. I already gave you the information you need. But yes, keep in mind when you are eating how actually important everything that you ingest or do actually is. But it also isn't. It also isn't, because you're having a human experience. So don't take it too serious, but also be mindful of it. I want you to be aware of it. When it comes to the chakras and food, honestly, if you are incorporating the high vibrational food with the grounding food, you're balancing. If you are working through trauma that you know is stored in a specific chakra, eat foods associated with that specific chakra. You can look it up. Or what's the color of the chakra? If it's your heart chakra, eat green food, But I think that as long as you eat the rainbow and you just incorporate whole foods into your diet, you're going to be good, and it'll help your system run a lot more smoothly. But do keep in mind, if you do start changing your diet and being more mindful, you might want to take it slow, because during my first Kundalini awakening, I turned into a pescatarian overnight like that, because meat I did not resonate with it at all. And it can be different for everybody. Some people, when they go through Kundalini, they need more meat. And then some people don't even want anything to do with it. And I had both experiences. So I was a pescatarian for a year and a half. Then I got pregnant. Then I had my baby. And during my pregnancy, I was eating meat. And I'm breastfeeding, so I'm still eating meat. And then I go through my third Kundalini rising. And guess what? This time, I needed meat instead of not eating meat. So your needs will change, and everybody's going to be different. So I really just recommend overall listening to your body. Learn about food on a, normal, logical level, but also on a spiritual level, and figure out what your body needs and just go from there. But it's okay to balance. It's okay to have a donut every now and then. It's okay I eat like shit a lot. Okay. And I don't mind. My twin flame, he makes me bomb ass shit. Okay. He makes me I love a greasy breakfast sandwich with eggs and fucking hash browns and all sorts of sauces. And yeah, he makes heavenly food, and I'm going to eat that. I'm going to eat that shit. But then I'm going to go eat some vegetables and quinoa later. You know what I mean? So just try to balance. I think that's the most important thing, and listen to your body. And don't be hard on yourself if you want to eat like shit, because guess what I had for breakfast? Pizza. I had pizza for breakfast today, but I'll go balance that out during lunch and go eat something healthy. Okay. So yeah, anyway, I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in my next video.